You know, when you learn the secrets to hitting your irons flush, it becomes really easy. You look forward to hitting that mid-iron out of the fairway because you know you're going to hit a good one, and most of your playing partners are going to struggle hitting those shots. Now, I've put together 3 of my all-time best videos that are going to share with you some of those real secrets to hitting crisp irons. Let's go ahead and get started. Most players I see tend to stand up and kind of flip at the ball like this. It causes 2 very big problems. Number 1, as I stand up and throw, I'm getting farther away from this golf ball. I also tend to lean back a little bit. It causes a huge contact problem. You see, it's going to want me to almost hit behind the golf ball a little bit. And if I happen to not hit behind, where I'm kind of throwing the club at the ball, I don't have very much forward shaft lean. And when I don't have very much forward lean, the leading edge of the club starts to come up off the ground. So I'm going to hit everything thin. So it's basically this endless battle of hitting thin shots and heavy shots, thin shots and heavy shots. And it has nothing to do with where you're hitting the ground. It has more to do with how you're moving your body. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I go ahead and get actually closer to the ground, cover the golf ball, and then stay in my posture. Now there's a great way to do this, and I call it the stable fluid spine. So what I'm doing here, and I'm going to give you a great way to measure this actually too. So I'm going to start off with one of these sticks through my belt loops. As I set up at address, I actually want to be tilted slightly away from the target. So if I take this other stick, kind of have it representing my spine angle, I'm going to go ahead and bump my hips forward and tilt my shoulders back a little bit until I'm in what's good posture, what what all pros would be doing as they set up pretty much. Now from there, I'm slightly behind the golf ball here. That makes it easier for me to come through this shot from the inside, stay down, clear out of the way, just like you're seeing with those pros. If I'm very vertical, now all of a sudden I want to kind of stand up and throw. If I get tilted, I can get opening and I can release that club out in front. Now that's one way to check that. I'm going to put this club straight up and down to this alignment stick. I'm going to tilt my body until that club hits the inside of my left leg. I should feel a little bit more weight on my right side, getting it there very early. The second piece here is when I come to contact, if I'm standing up early, I'm going to do this. And you're going to see my club on my shoulders is already starting to want to hit this bottom stick when they're way back here. They're almost still pointing toward that camera back there. They're going to want to hit each other. If I do this properly and I stay in my posture, my shoulder stick isn't going to catch up to my hip stick until up here. And I'm going to be having these sticks almost point toward the golf ball this direction, toward this camera, before the shoulder stick actually hits the hip stick. If I do that, then I'm in a great position. I can hit some really, really solid golf shots. So that's piece number 1. You really have to be having your shoulders and your body work properly. Let me do that same thing here, and I'll just go ahead and hit one. You'll see how my divot's going to be nice and clean, and I'm not going to hit way behind this golf ball because my hips and body are working properly. A little bit of tilt at address, and then from there, I'm going to feel like my body stays down and my hips stay in their posture as I come, or my shoulders stay in their posture as I come through contact. Let's try that out. There we go, nice and solid. And there, even though I didn't catch as much turf as I'd like to hit a little bit more on there because I had good shaft lean, because I stayed in my posture, that was still a really nice solid shot, even though it was slightly thin. If I would have been standing up out of my posture, that ball would have gone 20 yards shorter. I really would have been, not very good solid strike. So even on your mishits, these are going to be better, which is kind of the whole point of this. When you hit a bad shot, it's still pretty good. So let's go ahead and try one more here. Get a little tilt, stay in my posture all the way through contact. There we go, nice and solid there. And again, just a slight divot. It's a little fluffy ground, so you're not going to take a big divot here. And nice and solid. Now, once we're doing that, let's go ahead and add a little power to it. I'm going to take that stick again, and all I want to do is put it across my shoulders, and I want to make sure in my backswing, I loosen my legs up a little bit so that I can get a good full turn. And now I'm going to get this stick behind the golf ball in my backswing. If I flip it over the other way, I'm going to get it all the way down the fairway, or as far down the fairway, again, loosen my feet up, let them rotate as I can in the follow through. Once I do that, I'm going to start having some more power with this. So number 1, stay in my posture so I can hit it solid. Number 2, let's get loaded up well so that we can have some good speed and some good power as we're hitting these shots. Let's go ahead and give that a whirl. There we go, nice and solid. Pretty long shot with an iron. I got a 7-iron here. That's probably going somewhere around 185 today, and nice and solid because I'm winding up pretty well there. Now the third piece is lag. Here's a great drill for having lag. And these 5 pieces I'm going over, these 5 fundamentals, are the 5 fundamentals of the top speed golf system. This is what I base all my methodology, my teaching methodology off of. And this is what makes playing golf really easy. You don't have to worry about 100 things. Get these 5 things right, and you're gonna have a great time on the golf course. You're gonna hit some great shots. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and hold this stick down here like this in a backwards position. And what I wanna feel like I'm doing is if I had my golf club, I'd be holding it like this, going out of that end of the golf club. In my downswing, again, I wanna get this as close to the ground as I can, and I wanna feel like my hands get as low as possible, and this is still pointing behind the golf ball. Once I get to the golf ball, tons of lag, I go ahead and release it as fast as I can. So I'm gonna feel that same thing without a club a few swings. So I'm gonna hold it like this. I'm gonna feel like my hands get close to the ground. That stays behind the golf ball. Tracing down that target line if we're looking down the line view. And then from there, once it gets to the golf ball, I go ahead and smack myself in the side as quickly as I can. Don't do it too hard, you can hurt your ribs there a little bit. But you just wanna go ahead and do that really fast. Now that lag, the reason that lag is so important is because I'm saving that hit until late in the swing. I'm saving up all that potential energy until late in the swing, and then bam, I'm letting it go. I'm getting all that speed at contact instead of casting back up here, letting that club release, and then having nothing left for the hit down at the bottom. So I'm gonna feel like I'm getting that stick behind the golf ball, and then I'm not gonna release that until the last second. Then I'm really gonna let it fly. There we go. Add a little speed to that one. That one went a long way. Had a nice sound to it. As I started to ramp up the speed, it starts feeling even better. Now the fourth piece is what I call the straight line release, and that ties in exactly with what we just talked about. So even if you have all the lag in the world, it's not gonna do you any good if I don't get rid of it. So the lag creates speed because it saves up this big angle in the downswing, and then you release that through contact. If I was to grab my club kind of halfway up the shaft, as I start to come down, that should be leading in front of my hands again, just like that stick pointing behind the golf ball. And then I'm gonna release that, and it's only gonna split my forearms for the very first time up here past contact. Now you can see how it's splitting my forearms. That's exactly how I want it to happen in the golf swing. So I'm opening my body. One of the reasons that we tilted back like that was this reason. I'm opening my body, and I'm releasing that club out in front toward the target. So let's go ahead and try that out here. I'm gonna feel like I really let that club release out in front. I could even put a golf ball about 4 to 5 feet in front of my golf ball that I'm hitting down the target line. And I'm gonna feel like I release my club toward that golf ball. So let's go ahead and try that out. So I'm not releasing it at my ball I'm hitting. I'm releasing it up here toward the ball that's out in front. There we go, dead straight, really nicely hit shot. Doing my practice, my fundamentals just like everybody else. Now that was your 4 pieces. There's a 5th piece though that's extremely important. This has to do with your weight shift and how you can get the contact point correct at the bottom of the swing. See, there's 2 different types of players that struggle with solid contact. Player number 1 tends to fall back, so the momentum of the body is falling back this way in the downswing. They barely miss out from grounding out back here and kind of flip to barely hit that ball a little bit thin. That's gonna cause a lot of chunks and thin shots. Now, player number 2 that struggles with ground contact actually does the opposite of that a little bit. They get too far in front. This left shoulder gets in front of their left ankle. So if I was to draw a line down from this, it's actually outside of my ankle, and I'm gonna chop down into the golf ball too much. That causes a lot of inconsistency too, because this club's coming down on such a steep angle of attack, you have to just be really precise with it. So here's what I wanna feel. Number 1, I wanna tilt like we talked about at address. That's gonna get me behind the golf ball slightly. Number two, now in my downswing, I'm gonna keep that slight tilt, but I'm gonna let my weight shift to my front side. So I'm on my front foot, but my upper body is leaning back. That's if you watch pro players, watch them at contact, every single one of them is tilted away from the target with their weight moving to the left. I call this the compression line, helps you compress the golf ball. So I wanna be angled back, but my weight is moving to the left. And if I drew a line from the center of my ankle, it would run up through the center of my hip and the center of my shoulder, and that would either be with a short iron right over top of my ankle or slightly behind it. It would never be in front of it, and it would never be falling back this way. It's gonna be almost right over top of that ankle, but just slightly behind. And when I do that properly, that allows me to get a really clean strike time and time again. There we go, hit that one great. So it's that tilted away as you're coming through that allows you to tie that together and get that extreme consistency. And if you look at the pro players, like I said, look at every single one of them, they all look the same at contact. They're all tilted away like that. All right, I have a pitching wedge out here with a 150-yard marker, and I'm gonna talk about one of the most powerful drills that you can do to get the most distance out of your irons. And it's actually really counterintuitive. I'm gonna feel like I slam my club into the ground, kind of where this orange stick is going. And then I'm gonna rotate through just like the pros are doing, and I can get some crazy distance. I can't wait to share it with you because I know it's gonna be one of the best iron drills that you'll see. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl. There we go, hit that one good. Q's got my Flight Scope X3 radar out. What do we see with the distance there?
157.5.
So 157 yards with the pitching wedge. I can't wait to show you how to get that same kind of power in your swing. All right, so let's talk about one of the things that I see that just kills everybody's swing speed with their irons. And what happens here is we turn off our body. We don't get a lot of rotation through the shot. I see almost all players doing this. Then the hands and arms have to take over and kind of flip and push the club past their body. Ideally, what we'd have is tons of lag, really load the angle of this club up, and then rotate on through the ball as fast as we can. And as that lag releases, it's gonna be releasing in front of the golf ball. That gets the whip of the lag release, that lag ending, releasing through the shot. That gets that club to kind of whip through contact and also gets you all the power from your body rotating through. Let me go ahead and walk you through kind of an intuitive or counterintuitive drill that's actually gonna get you these correct feelings. I promise you, you've probably never seen this before, and it's definitely not something that you would have come up with on your own. It was always surprising when I first saw this drill. So this is a drill from Harry Vardon way back, you know, I don't know what it'd be, late 1800s, early 1900s when Vardon kind of came on the scene. The drill from a couple of his books. I've seen this drill mentioned a few times online, but it's a really cool drill. Basically what you would do is set up with your golf ball, normal stance, normal ball position, and then I would put kind of a club going down the target line toward where I'm hitting the golf ball through the center of my feet. That's gonna be kind of where the center of this would be. And then I'm gonna put another stick kind of pointing toward the golf ball. Now the angle of this stick doesn't matter that much. It could be, you know, this angle, it could be that angle. It's just kind of a general idea of what you wanna be doing when you're making this swing. Now, what I'm gonna be feeling here is I'm gonna feel like as I make my downswing, my body's gonna rotate open. I'm letting my body whip on through, but I feel like I'm slamming my club and arms down, kind of lined up with this orange stick. So I'm slamming my arms down and I'm rotating through, and that's what squares it up. Now, a great way to feel this, if you have an impact bag, you can see just how powerful this is if I set this impact bag kind of on the intersection of that, and now when I set up to do this drill, again, I'm gonna feel like my hands and arms as I swing are just slamming this club down into the ground as hard as I can. I actually don't put the zipper up on your impact bag. You might actually bust through your impact bag because that's just how powerful your arms are. I mean, this is how you'd chop wood. You'd have crazy club head speed if you just slam this club down as fast as you can. But that's the sensation we're gonna have. Here, going to the top, and then I am trying to line that club up with that orange stick on the ground, and I am just slamming it as hard as I can down on the ground. I guarantee I could swing way faster than I ever could in a golf swing when I'm doing that. Now, once I've done that, say 10, 15 times, and you get familiar with that, I mean, you can hear the pop on that. I mean, it's got some real power when you're moving that way. Why can't we do that in a golf swing? Well, we can. The only difference in That drill and the golf swing is the rotation of the body. So as I start to slam my hands and arms down, at the same time, I open my body up. As my body opens up, now that brings the club face square through the target. So here, if I was to keep my body closed, like I talked about is a big problem with most golfers, I slam that club in the ground, I'm gonna be whacking into the stick back here. But as I open my body up, look how that brings the club forward. It brings it on plane, and now I can hit shots toward the middle of the green. So again, I'm just gonna slam this into the ground and rotate as hard as I can as I'm doing this. There we go, another good shot, just a little left center. Hit that one a little slightly off the toe, but not bad. That's gonna be over 140 yards probably. With a pitching wedge is not bad for a slight miss hit. So let's talk about a couple of the keys here that are really important when you're doing this drill. Number one, when you're throwing the club, feel like you have a good amount of lag. So what I mean by this is, when I'm throwing this club down like this, I want to feel that sharp angle. Just like if I was going to chop a piece of wood with an axe, same motion. I'm letting that head lag behind, and I just let it fly at the bottom of the swing. So I'm not doing this, and to be honest, I wouldn't see anybody doing that if they just naturally let themselves try to hit this stick. But it really gets you this feeling of tons of lag. I mean, it makes it really easy to where I just swing freely, and that ball is gonna have a lot of speed just because my club is lagging so much. I mean, it feels really, really tight, tons and tons of lag when I do this drill. So there, as you can see on camera, very sharp angle with the hands and arms. And again, those are pretty hard hit pitching wedges. Number two, once you start to add the opening, the rotating on through there, this is a big key for almost every golfer I see, because when you start to rotate open, what happens with most people? Oh, the club comes outside, I'm chopping this way into the ball, I'm coming down too steep, I'm coming over the top. As soon as I open up my body, I'm steeping over the top. That's where this inside swing comes from. The more I get inside, the more I can rotate open. Now, as you rotate open, when you're feeling like this, feel like your left arm is kind of cinched across your chest. If my hips, my shoulders, my body stops and I'm pushing through there, look how I get the chicken wing. My arm flies off my body. I don't want to do that. That's me stopping my body and feeling like I'm pushing with my hands and arms. Big separation here. If I do this the right way, as I open my body, I feel like if I stuck my hand between my armpit and my bicep of my left arm and my pec of my left arm into my armpit, so my fingers in my armpit, it would be so tight, so connected, that I couldn't even get my hand out of there. It should feel really cinched in there to where now you're super connected. That's gonna help you to hit a lot straighter when you're doing this also. So again, you see how my arm doesn't fly off my body. I don't get a chicken wing when I'm doing this. There we go, and you see how I rotate all the way on through the shot. That's a lot of that because I'm coming through the ball, I'm opening up. I don't have to worry, I can open up as much as I want because the club is inside. Now it's tracking right down the line. Now, number three, what happens if I hit too far behind the golf ball? So a lot of times, let's go ahead and get rid of these sticks, you get the idea of the drill. A lot of times when you start to go more from the inside, that gets you wanting to hit behind this golf ball. The piece we just talked about is going to help with that. If I hit this tight and I rotate everything open, that's going to, again, instead of me grounding out back here, that carries the club forward and it carries my divot in front of the golf ball every single time. If I was to close my eyes, I would still be able to hit that divot in front without even looking at the golf ball. It's just the natural momentum of my body is carrying it out in front. Number two, I want to feel like I get a little bit of a weight shift as I'm doing that. So now as I open up, everything's going to be in front of the golf ball. My divot is going to be in front of the golf ball. So as you're doing this, weight to the left, and again, focus on pinching that arm as you rotate. That's going to bring your divot out in front of this golf ball every single time. So feel like as you start your transition, even though you're throwing back here, your body is opening and getting up here. So it's two kind of polar opposites. One, your arms are throwing this way and your body's opening that way. When you put both those together, that's what kind of gets that slingshot approach to this drill. So let's go ahead and hit one more. Notice how the divot is going to be in front of the golf ball. There we go, and that one was really long, maybe one of the longer ones that I've hit because it was nice and solid. That one went all the way to the back of the green. What was the distance on that one, Q?
161.2.
That's the longest one on there. So I'm telling you, if you do this drill, you're gonna be able to, maybe you won't hit 160-yard pitching wedges, but I bet you'll hit them 10, maybe even 15 yards farther than you are now. Now, one sneak peek into something that I didn't hit on very much here, but I think is a really cool side effect of this. Whenever you open up your body, so if I get my body rotating open, notice how that gets my hands farther in front of this golf ball. When I rotate my body open like that, my hands are going to be leading, and I'm actually taking a little bit of loft off this club. That's going to get me higher ball speeds, and that's going to get me more distance. I'm going to even exaggerate that here, and you'll see how my hands are leading the way coming through contact. There we go, and I see I hit that one really hard, but I took some loft off of it, and again, that one's going to be toward the back of the green, probably mid 150s on the flight there. I got a simple trick that you can do with a piece of a notebook, a folder, an iPad like I have here, really anything, and I'm going to show you the right position and the wrong position for the right hand, and it's really going to change how you deliver this club through impact, how you feel like you're really compressing the golf ball rather than flipping. So if you have trouble feeling like you come out of your posture, your kind of hips move toward the ball, you throw the hands and arms of the golf ball, maybe you don't have that forward shaft lean that you want, maybe you don't really feel like you're hitting down and compressing the golf ball, hitting the ball, and then taking that nice divot in front of it. If any of those things sound like you, this is really going to be a game changer from you, and it all ties back into how you properly move the right wrist in the golf swing. I can't wait to share it with you. I have a couple secrets to this, specific ways that you do this that are going to make all the difference in the world. Let's go and get started. All right, so let's talk about what's happening in bad golf swing, essentially. So if I'm throwing this club, I'm losing my lag here. I've done this before. Everybody's done it. Every single player that's ever picked up a club did this at some point and hit bad golf shots. We had to learn how to get this club lagging and to get the hands in front at contact. So when that cast is gone, or that lag is gone and we're casting a little bit, if we look at the right hand, there's two things that are going on. My thumb, if I'm looking at this, my hand goes down, that's called ulnar deviation. If my wrist goes up, that's called radial deviation. So the hand is going into what would be wrist down, ulnar deviation, kind of like I'm casting a fishing rod. The rod's already cast here. That's the first move. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's exactly what's happening to a smaller degree. And then also my wrist goes flat. So if I'm pushing this club forward with my right hand, which so many golfers do, and I used to do myself, then my wrist goes flat there. It feels really powerful. That's why everybody does this motion. Because if I'm trying to hit the golf ball that way and I'm right-handed, it feels like I need to hit that thing by casting this club and pushing it forward with my right wrist like that. And even though it feels powerful, it actually slows down your club head speed, because when I cast it, it's moving too fast back here and actually decelerating as I'm coming into the shot. Here's the difference. Here's what I want to have happen. In a good swing, I want to have this right wrist angled back. That's what's called wrist extension. So I want to have it angled back as much as I can at that point in the swing, kind of this last parallel in the downswing. And I also want to have my wrist into what's called radial deviation. So I want to feel like instead of my wrist being down, I still have it up like that. So it's those two moves together that make this happen. When I'm there, now I want to go ahead and release this out in front. So let's imagine this like I have my iPad on my hand. So if I swing halfway down and I cast this, the face of my iPad, if I was reading my iPad, I would be able to see the face of my iPad. If I do it the right way, my wrist is angled back into wrist extension and up into radial deviation, you'll see that my iPad, the face of it, or how I would be reading on here, would now be pointing down to the target line. So you want to feel like your right hand is coming down the target line. The palm of your hand is going to the target line all the way through contact, and then you let it release. So that's the big key there. That right wrist needs to be facing the target line all the way down, and then it has to throw. The last piece is actually really simple. I have a great tip for that too, but that's going to feel like I'm smacking that club, like throwing that club through contact, like if I was smacking my hand here. I'm going to go ahead and let that release as I'm coming on through. So if I was tossing a golf ball, Let's imagine I was going to toss to somebody 15, 20 feet in front of me. That's exactly what you would do anyways. You would have that wrist kind of angled back. As your body opened, you would then go ahead and release it. That's exactly the same thing we're trying to do in the golf swing. Have that iPad facing back toward the target line, and then from there, go ahead and flip and let it go. Most players that make this mistake either hit early and flip it, or if they do try to have that wrist angle back, they forget about letting it go and they lose all their speed. They just try to hold on. I don't want you to hold on. I want you to go ahead and let that wrist fly down the fairway. So if you're doing this right, the right wrist to you should feel like my palm is angled back toward the target line, and as I open my body, I'm just tossing the club down the fairway. And you'll see how now when I mention that, if you watch me swing, it'll look a lot like that when I make a golf swing. Let's go ahead and give it a whirl. So to me, it feels like I'm just turning, wrist angle back, and I'm just letting it fly. It feels very effortless. It feels like I can hit it very long way, a very powerful swing, very long way when I do that. And the speed all comes through contact now rather than prior to contact. Really handy. So as we start our downswing, we talked about how we have that hand out. That gets us in a great position here. And as we come through contact, we want to have the hands forward, leaning in front. Now you'll notice what I did there. As I leaned my hands forward, look what happens to the club face. Most players will do this when they first do that. As they get the hands in front, that club face opens up. Now I have a great bonus drill for you called the tennis racket drill, where I'm going to talk about exactly how to move the wrist to get that square, so that when I come through contact, I can hit that nice tight draw, leaning the hands in front, compressing the heck out of that golf ball, hitting the ground really consistently day in and day out. Man, it just makes it a lot more fun to play golf when you're doing that. So to see that video, all you need to do when I play the preview here in a second is just click the card that pops up on the screen. If you don't see a card, don't worry, just go ahead and click the link down below in the description. You'll get instant access to that video, and you'll learn how to pair up what we talked about here today with getting that contact to have that nice, tight, controlled draw. So best of luck, and I'll see you in the tennis racket drill. Good player problems. We're going to talk about shallowing that club shaft out as we're starting down, as we're doing this rotating of the face that we worked on in the last video. As we start this downswing, what you'll see with basically all of the top players is, instead of coming kind of over the top and letting the hands come out away from their body, letting the club come out away from their body, again coming down steep into the ball and then having to open up, kind of fillet open the face and add loft to it, the flattening of the shaft should happen as soon as we start down. So as we start this downswing, what we want to have happening here, you can imagine that if I draw a line from the hosel of my club up through my right elbow, that's my swing plane line, my elbow plane. As I go to the top of the swing, I'm going to be slightly above that. And then as I start down, I want my hands to start to shallow out. I want the club to shallow out inside of this elbow plane. And at the same time, I'm going to be rotating.